Ben Motorcycle Adventures podcast, your hub for everything off-road, dual sport, and adventure motorcycle. My name is John. I will be your host. It's almost 2019. Hang in there. Episode number 11, Ben Motorcycle Adventures podcast, and it's a good one. We've got Blake here from Lone Rider. That is lonerider-motorcycle.com, at Lone Rider Gear on Instagram, at lonerider.motorcycle on Facebook. And what does Lone Rider do? If you're not familiar with this company, they've got an impressive line of soft motorcycle luggage and moto bags. They've also got a nice line of tents for motorcycle adventure, soloist tents, their new ADVTENT. Blake is going to talk to us about all of that. And I'll tell you, if there's one thing I took away from this conversation, it's, the next time I get a tent or get some bags, and my full intention is to get a moto tent or an ADV tent from Lone Rider this year along with a set of bags. But it's attention to detail. These guys put their products through hell to make sure that when they get in the hands of guys like us, they are adventure worthy. They're ready to go and they're ready to last a lifetime. So they obviously back their product, but on the front end of things, they put in a lot of time torture testing, again, the crap out of things. So that's Lone Rider. That is the podcast tonight, and Blake comes on the show and he kills it. He's an excellent interview, and we just learn all things Lone Rider. So really looking forward to the fact that you guys get to tune into this podcast to round out the year, and then we'll look towards 2019 with even more guests. So really looking forward to it. Speaking of 2019, guess what time it is? It's time to write down that New Year's resolution, isn't it? How'd 2018 go for you guys? I will be the first to admit, I don't even remember if I made a resolution for 2018. Odds are, if I did, I fell well short. But in all seriousness, in 2019, my resolution is to, provide great value via my YouTube channel. And admittedly, my video game is weak right now, but I'm going to put a lot of emphasis on improving that channel. And one way that I intend to do that is to get a hold of products, like motorcycle adventure tents or tires or whatever the case may be, gear, and provide thorough and thoughtful reviews with high quality video on that YouTube channel. And I also want to include, instructional riding videos on there too. So that's my resolution for 2019. Just a heads up, keep your eye on our YouTube channel, and I fully intend to, I don't want to say take it next level because it's at level 0 right now, but let's work on bumping that up a few notches for 2019 and make it another resource for you guys that love to ride off-road, dual sport, and motorcycle adventure. All right, I think I've probably talked enough here. Let's get to the interview with Blake, again, from Lone Rider. Awesome podcast. I think you guys are going to enjoy it, and I will talk to you on the other side. Thank you. All right, guys, welcome back. Another episode of the Ben Motorcycle Adventures podcast. Today we'll be talking with Blake from Lone Rider. That is lonerider-motorcycle.com, at Lone Rider Gear on Instagram, and lonerider.motorcycle on FB. So, Blake, first and foremost, thank you for joining the show.
Hey, John, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
So for those of us who don't know, Lone Rider manufactures and sells amazing motorcycle adventure tents, luggage, moto armor, and other things. I think I came across your guys' Instagram, back in January, February. It's amazing the reach of Instagram, but just love the product. And then a couple months ago, I seen you guys came out with the mini bag, which I think is a great looking product. And then most recently, you guys released your ADV tent. So I'm hoping you can kind of speak to us about some of those products and the other products you offer, the mission, the direction of the company. And then we know that you've utilized these products on some long adventure rides. So we'd love to hear about that too.
Yeah, sure, John. So the luggage we first got into with our moto bags, and that was our first luggage product after producing only tents for about 5 years. And so with the moto bag, the idea was to basically get the advantages of both hard luggage and soft luggage with minimizing the compromises that you have to face with either of those types of luggage. So we spent about 3 years in development with the moto bags and went through over 20 prototypes in order to reach the production model that we work with now. So basically, it's what we call a semi-rigid pannier. So when you look at a photo of the Motobag, it looks like the shape of an aluminum pannier, but it's actually collapsible, and it gives way a bit if you are to push on it. So it's constructed with a material that you might be familiar with called Hypalon. And this is a material used in extreme applications such as whitewater rafts, containment suits. And what's nice about Hypalon is it's extremely durable. It's very lightweight. You can use a thin gauge Hypalon for very high exposure applications. And it also has a minimal stretch. So when you open up the Motobag, it folds into a collapsed position, and when you expand the Motobag, there's a board that folds out to hold the Motobag in the open position, and it actually maintains a pretty rigid structure. But if you are to drop the bike, it will actually deflect quite a bit. So that way, the luggage doesn't get damaged, and also if you are to drop the bike on your leg or something like that, it will reduce the risk of injury.
Sure. I'm looking at the Motobag right now, and I see a picture of someone pressure washing one off. Are these waterproof too?
Yeah, they're completely 100% waterproof. They feature a roll top design, and that is completely impervious to water. And in addition to that, we include an inner dry bag that you can choose to use or you can choose to not use. So the way that works basically is you can stuff the dry bag into the Motobag, place all your belongings inside of the inner dry bag, and that way, when you get to camp or if you're staying at a lodge, you can get to your destination and remove all your belongings in an inner bag that won't be soiled in water, dirt, mud, whatever you've been riding through. But I've actually always used just the Motobag when using the bag myself, and not the inner dry bag, because then, when you're camping right on the side of your bike, you can kind of rummage around in there a bit easier, and everything still stays completely dry.
Okay, so you guys also offer the mini bag. Now, help me out here. Is this meant to be able to attach to the Motobag, or is this just another piece of luggage that we can strap to the fender or something, or how does that work? Do you have a system?
Yeah, so the mini bag is made to be able to attach to not only the Motobag in multiple locations, but it can also be attached to your crash bars. It can be attached to a fender. It can be attached to your handlebars. So basically, the idea with the Motobag is that you can add 4.5 liters of storage to anywhere on the bike that you would like, and where you can securely attach the bag.
Okay, perfect. Moving away from bags. Obviously, you guys released this new tent, the ADVTENT, very attractive looking tent, and we've covered this on numerous episodes of the podcast. I have a lot of backpacking experience, so I'm an advocate for both durable and lightweight tents. What can you tell us about this one? It looks really nice.
Sure, thanks. Well, the ADVTENT basically fits in the middle of our tent lineup. So we have the Moto tent, which is a rather large tent. You can store 2 motorcycles inside the sequestered area inside the Moto tent.
Oh, wow.
Personally, I like to use the Moto tent, that sequestered area, for cooking, for changing. If it's very cold in the morning, you can boil some water in that sequestered area, and it actually warms up pretty nicely. So that the Moto tent is our largest tent. On the other end of the spectrum, we have the mini tent, which is basically a bivvy that's optimized for motorcyclists, in that instead of it being just over 6 feet long, it's about 6.5 feet long. This will actually closer to 7 feet. This way you have some room when you're laying down just above your head to place, your helmet, backpack, some pieces of gear, if it might be raining. So for a long time, we had only the mini tent and the Moto tent, and we didn't really have a mid-size tent. So the ADVTENT is roughly the size of a 2-person backpacking tent. And we used all very heavy-duty materials to construct this tent. So it's not, as totally light as, a minimalist 2-person backpacking tent. But the upside of that is that it's made from very durable material. The pole design of the ADV tent is made to where you can basically jump on top of the tent if you want, and it'll collapse in a way that's safe to where the tent will not be damaged.
So if we're out in a storm, and I've seen this happen, maybe you didn't stake your tent down in time, it blows away. Again, your tent's still going to be, unharmed, we'll say, if you can track it back down.
Yeah, that's correct. And there's 8 main staking points on the ADV tent. And there are also additional outriggers for if it's very windy. On a recent trip testing with the prototype, I had the ADV tent in about 35 mile an hour winds without using those additional outriggers, and it was completely stable, bolted to the ground. I think the shape of the tent helps a lot to minimize how much it's disrupted by wind.
Sure. Okay. One question I have about this tent: does it include is there a separate bottom for this to kind of help with the moisture?
Yeah. So we do include an additional footprint with the ADV tent. But what's cool about the way that we construct our tents is that the bottom of the tent has kind of a basin where basically the bottom of the tent, as well as some of the bottom sides, are one piece impregnated fabric that is actually waterproof. So really, you don't need to use a footprint for the tent. You can just pop the tent up and it's ready to go, even if you're on wet ground or if it may be raining at night. And this is a feature that we have for the, quote, cabin area on all of our tents.
Okay. And do we have removable fly if we want? If we want to take a look at the stars? Okay.
Yep. Rain fly is removable. So, if you're camping in the summer, it's hot out, you can use the tent without the rain fly. And the rain fly is pretty heavy duty. And I did some camping last month in southern Utah where it got pretty cold at night, about like in the low teens. And the tent actually does a decent job at containing some heat just because the rain fly material is pretty substantial. Of course, if you're camping in weather that cold, you should probably have a good sleeping bag, which I did not. So I was out there using a 35-degree bag in 12 to 18-degree nights.
Okay.
So,
yeah, if nothing else, some layers, right?
Sure, yeah. I actually ended up just stuffing a wool blanket like into my sleeping bag, and that helped quite a bit. But I'm definitely in the market for a 0-degree bag after that experience.
Yeah. And, considering weight, you said it's not, necessarily a lightweight backpacking tent, but I'm looking at the dimensions, the diagram of the tent. You can comfortably sleep 2 people in here and probably throw some of your gear in there. And if you've got some buddies going on a trip, you guys just split up some pieces of the tent, cut your weight in half, no problem. And the tent's in no way, shape, or form heavy anyway, but it's food for thought. One question I had for you, I noticed a picture here and saw an awning kit. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the awning kit allows you to open up the front door and stake out the front door of the tent so that it's used as an awning.
Okay.
So if it's, if you're camping and it's raining all day long, you want to stay dry, but you don't want to be cooped up in a dark tent, you can open up the awning and remain dry. And it's designed so that rain will not be able to enter the tent if the awning is open, unless you've got 35-mile-an-hour winds blowing the rain in the front door. But in that case, you probably want the front door closed anyways.
Okay. One feature that, maybe we don't call it a feature, but one thing that really stands out on this tent are the maps. I'm looking at one side, we've got kind of a North America and South America map. The other side, we've got Europe and Asia. That's a pretty cool touch to put on this tent.
Yeah, sure. We offer a few different versions of the tent that feature different maps on the front door. And, it makes for great conversation with your camping with some friends around the campfire and your bikes. And you can think, here's maybe we could go this route, or, I didn't know this country was this big. And it also allows you to, if you would like, mark the tent, to indicate places you have been with the tent with your motorcycle.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. And if you're going to have a tent like this, you're going to have it for years to come. That is kind of a way to kind of carry on some memories moving forward. Yeah, here's I'm taking a look at your footprint now. I just saw this. And actually, it's all about the details with this tent. I like the fact that the footprint has a, big SOS lettering on it. You never know, right? I mean,
Sure. We've had a lot of customers over the years that have used our tents on really extended overland trips in very remote areas. So keeping those kind of customers in mind, it could come in handy to where, if you're stuck out in the desert in Africa or something, with a dead bike, whatever we can do to help you in that situation, we try to keep that in mind.
Yeah, that might be the difference. So let's talk a little bit about Lone Rider, the company, if you will. What can you tell us about the business? You're not based out of the U.S., is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It was originally founded as a French company. The founder of the company is Fred Scheffer, and he's an avid motorcycle traveler. He's been to over 80 countries on motorcycle, and basically the idea behind founding the company was to create the best products we could for people who are going out there on their bike and traveling for extended periods of time. And basically the philosophy that we have of the company is that, if you think about how far adventure bikes have progressed technology-wise in the past 10 to 15 years, they've come a really long way. And our idea basically is that your gear should also reflect that level of advancement. So this was kind of the idea that we had, with the moto bags. Is aluminum panniers, are not a new innovation. They've been around for a long time, and the design hasn't really changed much, in over a decade. So, you see aluminum panniers on a, brand new KTM 1090. And, they are a good product, but you think, shouldn't my luggage reflect how far my bike or, adventure bikes in general have advanced over the years?
Sure. I think that's a good point. I'm not a big fan of aluminum panniers. And I think part of that reason is you're right. They look old. They don't look developed. Got a $10,000, $15,000 bike. The last thing I want to put on there is something that looks dated. So yeah, when you have options like here with Lone Rider, that looks much more attractive and is probably more versatile overall. So I totally agree.
Yeah, and that's basically our idea with all the products we have. And if we were to have an overall philosophy for our products, it's that we use the best materials available and the best construction methods available. So we really try to have zero compromise on any of our products.
Excellent. So if I'm not mistaken, you went on a rather long adventure with some of these products. Did you use the mini tent?
Yeah, I use the mini tent as well as the moto bags. So I did. I took about 33 days to ride from Austin, Texas, to Southern California, and then I did a ride there with the Wolf Enduro guys, which was a hell of a time. And then from there, headed up north through the Sierra Nevada mountains up to Lake Tahoe. Then I cut over to the West Coast and followed the coast all the way up to Tillamook, Oregon, where I then cut into Portland, eventually heading up to the further in the Pacific Northwest, right in the Olympic Peninsula, then British Columbia. And then I rode back to Austin, Texas through eastern Washington, eastern Oregon, Idaho, northern Utah, Wyoming, and Colorado.
That is a heck of a loop, and you were in our home turf here in Oregon, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to come by Bend. I was pretty conflicted on my route of whether I wanted to kind of stick to the Cascade Range or if I wanted to follow the coast. And basically, what made the decision for me was that at this time, which was end of July, early August, the entire West Coast was on fire. So the only place where I could really breathe clean air was on the coast. So I basically stuck to the coast for as long as I could.
Yeah, that was probably a good call. It's going to be much cooler on the coast that time of year too, but I think we were just swimming in smoke from July till even October. It's crazy, another crazy year for fires.
Yeah. There was one day in eastern Washington when I was heading east where the smoke was so thick I was waiting to just stumble upon, the fire itself. And man, after weeks of riding in that stuff, it eventually gets to you, and you start to your respiratory system starts to get a little bit upset with you.
Yeah, it's not good for you. I can recall a couple days this summer where we literally just had ash falling from the sky, and we weren't particularly close, but there were a number of fires, within the region. It's crazy. Hoping for a little more moisture this winter, but we really haven't got it yet.
Yeah, when I was in Mammoth, California, riding with some friends, we had a day where ash was falling like crazy, and we were basically waiting for the notice to evacuate. Luckily, the wind shifted, and the following day it was as clear as could be, so we were able to enjoy a lot of riding up there on some really great single track.
Yeah, we've heard good things about Mammoth. We're going to have to get down there at some point. I went on an adventure tour, was it 2017, with Simon Cudby and Seiji, and okay. they were raving about that particular area. So definitely a spot that we want to visit for sure.
Oh yeah, that was some of the best single track of the entire trip, in my opinion. Really, really kind of interesting dirt, very loose, sandy, gravelly dirt on all the single track up there. A lot of fun.
Right on. All right, Blake, is there anything else you want to tell us about Lone Rider before you go?
Yeah, sure. So we're working on a number of new products right now for 2019. So we've got the new tent coming out. We're going to expand the Moto Armor range, which is that department of Lone Rider is run by Andy Koru, and he's done a really great job of being very thorough, working with the community on what they desire out of armor for their motorcycles. And we try to operate that same way with the rest of our products. We do a lot of community outreach to figure out exactly what riders want. We'll run through different prototypes, send them to people, ask them to really put the products to use, and what do they like, what do they not like. So that's actually the process we're going through right now with the new ADVTENT. Is we've got 3 prototypes out there right now. One of them we sent to a couple of overlanders in Africa who have done some testing for us before. So they're doing some long-term testing with the prototype that we have right now. I'm continuing testing with the prototype that I have. So I used it in New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and Colorado. And in about a week here, I'll be in Baja, California, continuing testing with the ADVTENT prototype. So we really like to do very thorough testing with prototypes of our products prior to moving to full stage production. This way we can have full confidence in the model that we are actually selling to our customers, and we know that they're going to have a totally solid product.
Right on. That's perfect. A question about the Moto Armor. I see some items here for BMWs, for instance. Should we expect to see Moto Armor for other makes and models moving forward?
Yeah, we're working on a few different applications right now. I can't tell you everything about exactly which bikes we're developing products for.
Sure.
But yeah, basically we're targeting popular adventure bikes. We will have different products for them. And the headlight guard is it has a modular design, so you can run it in a number of different configurations. This allows you to tailor your setup, to exactly what you want and or need. You can run, for example, the BMW headlight guard. You can run it as just a clear Lexan glass, or you can run it with the rock guard and the amber filter, which can help with visibility on the bike. Maybe give you a little bit more safety when you're out on the road. So yeah, we're excited about a few different things we're working on for 2019, especially this new ADVTENT. We've put a lot of work into designing it and developing it, and we think people are going to be very happy with the tent, and they'll be able to use it on a lot of different adventures.
Interesting. And back to your Moto Armor, just thinking about the options that you just discussed, and there's a lot of development goes into that little part. So people that might be interested in looking at your tents or luggage, that's what you guys are bringing to the table. Like you said, a lot of R&D, a lot of testing, a lot of prototypes. So when the products hit the floor, they're ready to go. They're ready for adventure. So that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was the same with the moto bags. Like I said, we spent 3 years in development, and we're glad that we did, because you can test a product for 4 or 5 months and it's not a single issue will show up. And then you find out, okay, maybe 6 months to a year down the road, something needs to be revised in order for that product to really stand up over time. One of those challenges that we faced was we use a construction method called frequency welding with the Hypalon that's in the moto bags. And so it basically uses a special type of adhesive and then a high frequency welding process to bind the Hypalon together. And when done correctly, that basically makes it so that the area that is bound is actually stronger than the Hypalon itself. So you don't really have a weak point in the construction. Now, something that we noticed with some of the testing we were doing in extremely hot climates was that, for example, this was some people that were testing the moto bags in Africa. If the bike is sitting in 100 degree, 40 degrees Celsius plus temperatures all day for weeks and months on end, if the perfect amount of that adhesive is not used in the seams that are frequency welded, it'll actually start to melt the seam. So we found with a couple of very early prototypes that after being subjected to very high temperatures for a long period of time, or if the moto bag was very close to the exhaust on a bike, and you were doing a lot of low speed riding with idling where there isn't enough airflow to keep that temperature down, we would have the corners of seams start to separate or slide a little bit. So we took notice of that issue and reevaluated how much of the adhesive we were using in the frequency welding process, and actually changed the design of some of the seams and retested. And since reconfiguring our setup on the seams, we have yet to have a single issue with temperature or any of the frequency welded seams. So, it's really in the details when you're trying to make a totally bulletproof product. You have to be very thorough, because if you don't test everything completely thoroughly for an extended period of time, you're bound to come across issues further down the road.
Yeah, you guys are going to great lengths to shore up the details. I mean, 100 degrees in Africa, most of us are never going to experience that, but you just don't know, what different climates, temperatures, ecosystems are going to bring up. But again, I think that's a testament to the long haul testing that you guys are doing on this stuff to make sure that when it gets in our hands, it is truly bulletproof and ready to go. Awesome.
Sure. Yeah. And I was able to put that to the test myself on my recent trip. When I was passing through New Mexico and Arizona in the end of July, it was right at the tail end of a heat wave. And I had about a 250-mile stretch of road near Blythe, California, right on the border of Arizona and California, where temperatures went between about 116 and 119. And I was just dying on the bike, but thankfully, well, and actually it got so hot, and I was just trying to book it through that area because I was just pounding the water out of my Camelback trying to make it closer to the coast so I could get some cooler temperatures. And I'm riding along, and I'm riding a Husqvarna 701, cooking along at about 80 miles an hour. So it's turning, the bike is turning a pretty good RPM. And the motor is putting out a lot of heat, and I start to smell gasoline, and I'm thinking,
oh no,
I guess there's a truck in front of me, and I think, I guess that truck might be leaking gas or something. And I say, wait a minute, that's a diesel truck. So I look down, and the two fuel tanks I'm running on my Husqvarna are spraying gasoline out from underneath the fuel tanks. So actually, the ambient air temperature, as well as the temperature from the motor of the bike, actually started boiling the gasoline in the two front ends. So and that had never happened to me before. So I almost panicked a little bit. I immediately pulled in the clutch, hit the kill switch, and coasted onto the shoulder, basically waiting for the bike to go up in flames because I knew that gasoline was dripping onto the header of the bike. So then for about 20 minutes, instead of riding through, 115, 118 degree weather, I was standing around and in that same weather, waiting for the bike to cool down.
So which one's worse, by the way? Standing in it or riding in it?
Yeah, you would be surprised. I mean, but maybe not. I would prefer standing in the high temperatures because, when you're in that type of temperature, airflow doesn't really do anything for you. It's more like standing in front of a blast furnace. You can open up all the zippers and vents you want on your jacket. All you got for you is super hot air rushing across your body. So yeah, in that scenario, I'd rather stand around for a little bit. Maybe pour some water down the back of my jacket.
Awesome. All right, Blake, you want to remind us where we can check out Lone Rider's products, purchase new ADV tents, things like that?
Yeah, sure. Our website is www.lonerider-motorcycle.com. We have all our products on there. We ship internationally for free. We use DHL shipping. It's very fast, very reliable. We'll ship to anywhere on the planet for free. The price is included with your purchase. You can follow us on Instagram at Lone Rider Gear, one word. We're very active on Instagram, and we share a lot of our customers' photos, and we let everyone know what we're up to with new products and product testing and who we're sponsoring for big trips. And I also want to throw in there, we just had some riders we sponsored on Instagram at Los Panos Americanos, and they just rode KLR 650s from Anchorage, Alaska to Ushuaia using our mini tents. And they had a hell of an adventure and were able to overcome a lot of obstacles and stuff along the way. So you should check them out as well. But yeah, check us out on Instagram and our website. And if anyone has any questions about our products, you can send us a direct message on Instagram, and I answer those personally. So yeah, we welcome any questions, any comments, and thanks for having us on here. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, Blake, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for donating your time and a lot of information. It's awesome to hear about a company like Lone Rider. And you know what? Again, appreciate your time. Thank you, Blake.
Sure thing, John. It's been a pleasure.
One more time, Blake, thank you for coming on. Thanks for talking to us on the podcast about all things Lone Rider. And guys, you need to go check out their website, lonerider-motorcycle.com. If you're in the market for a tent, the ADV tent looks amazing. It looks sweet. It's 20% off right now, and shipping is free worldwide. Don't forget about their social media accounts, at Lone Rider Gear on Instagram, at lonerider.motorcycle on Facebook. Make sure you check these guys out. Speaking of websites and social media accounts, benmotorcycleadventures.com, that is our website. First and foremost, we are an off-road, dual sport, and adventure motorcycle touring company. We've got amazing off-road single-track rides in Oregon for 2019, amazing dual sport rides in Oregon and all over the West Coast, along with adventure motorcycle rides, like the one that I continue to promote, the Continental Divide Ride, 2,500 miles, Mexico to Canada, this summer. If you want some insider information, some intel on this ride for 2019, visit the Continental Divide page on our website. Should be under the Motorcycle Adventures tab. Sign up, and we'll give you some more information about that ride if you're truly interested in it. It's going to be about 2 weeks long, and it's really the ultimate motorcycle adventure inside of North America, at least. Ring of Fire dual sport adventure in Oregon. I've talked about this a number of times, but hands down, the most exciting 7 days you can spend on a dual sport motorcycle. I've got a killer loop here in Oregon, amazing accommodations. That one will be posted under the dual sport tab on our website. If you want to check out the Ring of Fire dual sport tour, we've got it all. National parks, single track, 2-track, amazing sights, amazing things to see in Oregon. I think Oregon's a little bit underrated for adventure and dual sport riding, but I have the ultimate ride put together. Again, it's called the Ring of Fire. Make sure you check that out. And last but not least, if off-road riding is more your cup of tea, you're not into the dual sport or adventure motorcycle thing, I get it. And for you, I've got a great ride. It'll be the end of May, early June, May 31st and June 1st to be precise. It's called Alpine. It'll be 2 days, predominantly single track in the mountains of Eastern Oregon. Your price, your fee, whatever you want to call it, it includes lodging for 2 days. It includes your food. It includes your bike gas, all of those things. All you have to do is sign up, bring your bike, or rent one from us, and I'll show you around the mountains of Eastern Oregon on some killer trails. So again, Alpine, click the off-road tab on our website, click Alpine, and you can check that ride out. You don't want to miss it in 2019. All right, guys, time for me to get out of here. Just a heads up, next episode of the podcast will be focused on both the New Mexico and Arizona backcountry discovery routes. Our friend Drew is going to come on. He's actually ridden both these routes, Colorado, some of the Continental Divide, spent some time in Baja. He's from Australia. He's ridden there. So another seasoned motorcycle adventure, not unlike our friend Keith, who was on episode 7. And Drew is here to tell us all about the Arizona and New Mexico backcountry discovery route. So you don't want to miss that episode, again on Wednesday, January 2nd. And with that being said, one more time, don't forget to check out our website, www.benmotorcycleadventures.com, off-road, dual sport, adventure motorcycle tours. You can catch up with our blog. You can catch up with the latest episodes of the podcast. There's also a lot of motorcycle adventure tips for packing, planning, tools, things of that nature. Our website is really a resource for off-road and motorcycle adventure, or at least it's heading that direction. So again, benmotorcycleadventures.com. And with that being said, I'm out of here. We will see you guys on Wednesday.